Okay, we're gonna be doing something a little different than we normally do as far as versus is concerned.
Yep.
For starters, I'll talk about what we're talking about. Obviously, we're exploring Aronofsky. And this video was requested. So I was kind of thinking like, okay, yeah, they're both Aronofsky movies and he did them back to back, but how exactly do they compare and relate? I'm guessing it is the lead character who is obsessed with performing, and that's all they want to do.
Yep.
And you know, they have their ups and downs, and then eventually it ends in them leaping into an ambiguous fate. Is how both movies end. Now, the thing I was talking about as far as this being different from normal versus is, since it was requested, I should note that this is the first time in Versus history that I have reviewed one movie that I love and one movie that I don't.
Yeah.
It's either the one that says rental exclusive or the one with the library sticker. It's a trick question.
It really is.
I will give you a hint. This is not a rented copy. I just bought a really, really cheap copy of it. But as you'll see, I didn't buy Black Swan at all.
No. And it does play into our cryptic comment of choreography today.
Yes. Now, I'm going to start with Black Swan, actually. I had a weird relationship with Black Swan for a long time because in the 2010 Oscar season, it came out. And it was the bee's knees. Everybody was falling head over heels in love with it.
Yeah.
And I saw it for the first time, and I was like, wow, that was great. And I saw it a second, I was like, yeah. Saw it a third time, I was like, what the fuck happened? Because I really didn't like it the third time. And then I didn't watch it for like almost 4 years. Yeah, because when I saw it that third time, it was still in the Oscar season of 2010, and I got it from the library and watched it again in preparation for this video, just to make sure I hadn't forgotten it. I hadn't. So I was like, okay, maybe this fourth time will bring me back to the good graces of it, because I was waiting to watch it that whole time.
Yeah, of course.
Because it was like, okay, I loved it the first time. Maybe if I just give it a few years, I can get back there. Let me go into it. Now listen, and once I know this movie has a huge, gigantic fan base, and that's perfectly okay. Like I said, I too was one of you once. But, here's the problem. Okay. We have Natalie Portman's Oscar-winning performance. Okay? And she is Nina Sayers, who is, trying out for the Swan Queen. But the trouble is the teacher Vincent Cassel, who everybody like holds as like, you know, the greatest of all greats, and everybody wants, you know, a part in his production. Everybody wants to bang him. Everybody just wants everything to do with him.
Yeah.
Even if he is the love you and leave you type. Once you are the Winona Ryder character of Beth, once they get old and there's somebody new,
move on to the next thing.
Just his revolving door.
Yeah.
And that causes some problems. But naturally, we are introduced to Lily, who is Mila Kunis. And this is when the movie gets a little heavy. Basically, Nina starts to live the actual life of the story itself. She's got a Rothward, I think that's the character's name, is Vincent Cassel. You know this, because at one point, Vincent Cassel literally turns into that character in Nina's mind. And of course, Lily is her Black Swan. Because Nina's got the White Swan down. He says, if I was casting the White Swan, you would have had it long ago. But you need to do both, and I'm just not seeing the Black Swan in you at all whatsoever. So eventually, Lily appears. And it's worth noting pretty much every time we see Lily, the very first frame of her is Natalie Portman.
Mm-hmm.
It does that subliminal message thing through the whole damn movie, but... and that's supposed to kind of... There's a whole bunch of theories on. There's the theory that there's a Fight Club thing going on. There's the theory that it's a metaphor for her dueling personalities. Whatever. It could be anything, really. I don't think it's the Fight Club thing because so many people see and talk to Lily.
Yeah.
And, like, know her by name. So, I never really thought that, but, and then the whole ambiguous ending, but we'll get to that. And Nina has this obsession with Beth where she's, she always goes into her room and, like, takes her lipstick and takes her cigarettes and takes everything that belongs to her and basically just tries to become her. Because she says she wants to be perfect like her. Because that's basically, as far as dance is concerned, that's who she holds in the highest regard to this art form. And of course, she is this broken down, drunk, rejected woman who is very standoffish and confrontational every time she sees Nina, because Nina's basically the replacement. Like when she says, you know, why do you pick you? Because you suck his cock. Or she, like, screams at her in the hallway because she's staring at her. But then finally Nina does get the part. Much to everybody's chagrin. I do like the scene with her and Veronica, I think was the other girl's name, where Vincent Cassel tells her Veronica got the part. And she thinks that, so she tells Veronica before she even sees the list, congratulations. And Veronica goes and sees that it's Nina, because when Nina bit his lip is when he decided, whoa, there's the Black Swan.
Yep.
And the rest of the movie is basically her trying to perfect the Black Swan while her reality and mind are coming crashing down, and she develops a real Black Swan to her own personality. Or some bullshit like that. This movie is just full of that metaphor. So, like I said, pretty much almost every frame has some kind of subliminal message in it. I understand that people like that. That people love that they can study a movie that much and always find something. That's why people love Lynch movies so much. It reminds me of a Polanski movie, like in the vein of Repulsion or something. But it just starts to get a little out of control. And for starters, I will say there's a big debate on what genre it is. I think the popular choice is horror.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, it kind of actually despite being like this more or less artsy Darren Aronofsky movie that ran for 5 Oscars and won one of them, it's got so much standard horror scenes.
It really does.
It's got jump scares, it's got cringe scenes, it's got blood. And I think it tries way too much to do the cringe thing. Like, every other scene is trying to get you to cringe at something. Like, you have a lot of stuff with nails. Like, the scene where she's practicing, and then her, like, big toenail splits in two.
Yeah, that was sick.
The scene where she for some reason, has a vision that she pulls the skin back on her finger. The scenes where we get there's 2 scenes of her cutting her nails with scissors. And then there's the scene where, like, the Black Swan Nina takes over and deliberately cuts her finger. Yes. And just shit like that. Where she's, like, pulling the tiny little feathers out of her back. And just that thing in general where she has the thing where you just compulsively scratch your skin. Which she basically does it when she blacks out, but oftentimes in the movie you can kind of see her really quickly do it. And stuff like that. I do like the scenes, like, just like those little moments every now and then come up. Like, I mean, it's blown by a much bigger scene that makes it a lot more obvious later, but I do like those moments that are just really, really, really subtly in there, like when, like I said, they do a whole thing about it right afterwards, but that one quick moment where, Nina's in the room with the big mirror behind her, and just for, like, there's only a second's difference where Nina moves her head and the reflection moves a little quicker. And it's that just, like, by itself is really creepy, but then they do the whole reflection turns around and looks at her thing and they blow it. Yeah. And a lot of the times it feels like it's being creepy just for the sake of it. Like what was with the moving pictures and just those scenes where Nina's by herself and then something will, like, she'll think she sees something that she really doesn't, and it's just, I mean, I understand that's one of 2 things, either just her losing grip with reality or her Black Swan taking over, or whatever.
Combination of both.
And then you just have random, and it tries to be erotic. Okay, like, the whole thing surrounding this was the scene where they make out and Mila Kunis goes down on her. That was the whole thing surrounding this movie for a very long time, and still, that's pretty much the only thing people relate it to. There's that totally, it's a 20-second scene that really has no business being in the movie whatsoever, where some dude is sitting on the subway just watching Nina and jerking off. And she's just sitting there. And that's all the scene is. There was nothing before, there was nothing after. It's just that, and then we go to something else. But, I don't know. I mean, I know they were trying to set, like, a creepy tone, and that's what they do with all the symbolism and the subliminal messages and all that, but it just doesn't work for me anymore. I think it's one of those movies where, I know a lot of people see it over and over and over again, and they love seeing that little stuff, and they just, fall in love more and more with it. I think this is one of those movies for me where there won't be a time like the first time.
Ooh.
Like, my first thought was maybe I was just so enamored by the ending, because it does have, that last 15 minutes, the performance of the show itself is fantastic.
Yes. It's
really, really, really fantastic. One of the best scenes ever in a movie I don't like.
Yeah.
And that's another thing. I do also love the shot of, where we see her and she literally grows the wings as she's spinning around. And then when we see her on the stage and she's her normal self, but her shadow on the wall still has the wings. That's a cool shot. That whole scene is just amazing. My first thought when seeing it was maybe I was just so enamored by that ending. I tricked myself into thinking I love the whole thing. I don't know. But, yeah, overall, it doesn't, the horror aspects don't work for me. The metaphors and subliminal messages thing, I think, is... Because that's basically all it has to do. That's basically all it is. And that's all they have to work with. And that's enough for most people. Like I said, those people that love Lynch movies, because they just love those surreal things that you kind of are like a mental mystery. Okay. That's great. I don't like that I feel about it like I do now. I much prefer if I felt about it the way I did the first time. But the more I watch it now, the more it just... I just like it less and less every time. And Natalie, I was mesmerized by Natalie Portman the first time. By Oscar night, I was thinking, what the fuck it? Because after a while, it just kind of seemed... The first time I saw her, I thought it was magnificent. But then the second, third, and fourth time I watched it, it was just like, okay, Natalie Portman's either being overly innocent or looking scared. Occasionally doing the evil glare thing for a second when it calls for it. But
it's a shame you feel that way, too.
I know, but shit happens.
Some movies get better with time, some movies don't.
Like I said, I'm sure the movie's got a huge fan base to back it up, so it doesn't like it needs my endorsement or anything. But now, as far as The Wrestler is concerned, totally different territory.
Oh yeah.
It got a little bit of gore in it, but not in the same way.
Yeah.
And the gore is real too, or at least some of it. Now, the thing about The Wrestler is, what movie was I talking about recently? Get On Up, actually. You have those movies where they basically only exist so that the lead performance can exist. Get On Up exists solely so we could have that performance of Chadwick Boseman as James Brown. This movie solely exists so we can have this performance from Mickey Rourke.
Yes.
But the difference there is Chadwick Boseman was in a mediocre movie around him. Mickey Rourke's performance in the character of Randy the Ram is this movie.
Yeah.
So everything that Mickey Rourke brings to the table is this movie.
And it almost didn't happen.
Yeah.
Nicolas Cage was supposed to be in this film, and he goes to Ring of Honor, and the next thing you know, he drops out.
Yes, I think something like Mickey Rourke's behavior made studios not want to fund it or something because they thought it would fall through or something.
Yeah.
But no, we got it, and it's a good thing we did.
Oh yeah. One of the best movies of 2008.
And it has... it does have a couple of, obvious storylines. Like, he has to, have unrequited love with somebody, and he has to have, a daughter he's trying to reconcile with. There's always a reconciliation with a kid subplot. But thanks to Evan Rachel Wood, that really works, and thanks to Marissa Tomei, the love story of sorts really works. Because the interesting thing about him and Marissa Tomei's characters are Cassidy, by the way. It's much easier to call her that. Randy and Cassidy have a similarity that they both basically do what they do. That's basically how they're getting by, and they're both performing, except. And the first time we see Cassidy, she's with like those frat guys. It's like a bachelor party, and they're basically just they want one girl, but she's not in. So Cassidy's gonna dance for them, and they're like, well, you're too old. We don't want you. And,
we want the other girl.
Yeah. She said something like, they say like, well, we want people that are kind of in our same class, not the class of 1985 or something like that. Fuck them, Marissa Tomei's hot.
Especially in this role.
But anyway, but the difference is she does what she does because she has to, and he does what he does because he needs to.
Yes.
Because it's just how he lives. That's all he's got to go on in his heart. And that message is put in a lot, but nothing like it is in the ending. And that's the thing, they could have really pounded that in, like, hey, this is a guy, that needs to do this, and it just would have been this basic movie with one thing just jamming in over and over again. But through Mickey Rourke's performance and the fact that it's so close to him, and the fact that obviously in your business, I don't know how many times you've seen this like up close in person.
Oh my god, it's so true to life. It's not even funny.
Like when the movie starts. Well, first off, we get like all the posters, and we hear the announcers, and we hear all his past.
Oh yes.
And then it just abruptly says 20 years later, and that shot of him sitting there in like what looks like that nursery, just preparing after that match. It looks like it's shooting a documentary.
Yeah.
Like all the locker room scenes, all the signing scenes, it just feels like a documentary, and not in like the cheap. Oh, we're so clever way, but it just feels so real.
Because it is. I mean, that's how it happens sometimes.
So, when this happened, this is just one of those movies that's defined by a performance, but instead of being able to break it up with, it's a mediocre movie with a great performance, the performance makes it the great movie that it is.
Yes.
Like I said, even those, more cliche moments just kind of... There's such a heart in the middle of them.
Mm-hmm.
And we see so many different sides of Randy. And the thing is this is one of those opportunities where we get to talk about... sometimes there's a lot of debate about an actor playing a role so close to home, and whether it's a good performance or whether it's just the actor being them. Well, first off, you can look at it as the physicality that he had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because every single thing that Randy does in this movie is Mickey Rourke throwing his ass around.
Yeah.
And getting everything. He even bladed himself in the head.
And not everything is filmed either.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff on the cutting room floor. The match with the Necro Butcher is not in the movie.
So not only did he master that physicality, but yeah, when you get to... We see so many different sides to Randy. We see broken down, depressed Randy. We see desperate Randy. We see happy Randy when he's in the bar dancing with Cassidy. We see him heartbroken when he's giving the speech to Evan Rachel Wood about, I'm an old broken down piece of meat and I'm alone and I deserve to be alone, but I just don't want you to hate me. And
such a great piece of dialogue right there.
That was always his Oscar clip too, and it was perfect.
Yeah.
Just when he mastered the one tear too. If ever there was the one tear that was going to get you in any movie ever, it would have to be this one.
It's one of the biggest Oscar snubs of win in the history.
That was an epic battle.
Yeah, it was.
But I mean, Sean Penn is great in that role, but I think if Sean Penn didn't have the industry pull that he does...
I think you're correct.
Because everybody, if you watched the award season that year, everybody was on Mickey Rourke's side.
Absolutely. Did his dog die or something during the award season?
Something like that.
He got kicked while he was down several times while it was happening.
He did when he won the Critics' Choice and the Globe, I think. I mean, even if the Globe is just the Globe, that was still a great moment when he won the Globe.
He got a WrestleMania payday out of it too. When he punched Chris Jericho.
Yeah. So let's talk about the ending.
Oh my god. Great appearance from Ernest the Cat Miller as his opponent, too.
Oh my god, this ending. There's two great things about the ending. Number one, it pulls no stops on making Randy's life as miserable as possible.
Yep.
The very, very last thing this movie had on its mind was a happy ending.
Yeah.
Because Cassidy rejects him, and his daughter hates him. And that's when we leave him.
Yeah.
But somehow there's still that bittersweet moment. After all the horrible shit that has happened. I mean, Cassidy still has that moment where she shows up to cheer him on and has her big cry scene. Marissa Tomei's Oscar clip. Where he says, you know, that's what I live for out there. That's, you know, why I do what I do. That's why I'm still alive.
Yeah.
Because after that hardcore match, he had that near fatal heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
And it's coming back for him in this match. And you just know the chances of him getting out of the ring on his own in this match are pretty slim. So he gets on the top rope and everybody's chanting his name. And he's crying and he's getting ready for the ram tomb. And then, as I said, just like Nina jumping off with the bloodstain on her front.
Yep.
He leaps into an ambiguous fate, and we don't know what happens.
And we get our Springsteen song, and that's the end.
I know it's supposed to say, like, it's left up to the viewer's interpretation of whether he lives or dies. I think in both of these movies, it's made pretty clear that they died.
Yeah.
And I'm just enough of a pessimist to really, really stand by that. I never, ever once watched Black Swan or The Wrestler and thought they lived. So, Black Swan even ends with a fade into a white light. If that's not death, what is?
Yeah.
So, do I even need to say that I prefer The Wrestler?
It's an amazing movie, and I'm not just biased here. I understand, and there are a lot of wrestlers that when the movie first came out, they actually got some screenings, and there were several veteran wrestlers that were crying watching this movie because it's so true to life.
I think Roddy Piper was the most public about it.
Piper, Greg Valentine, there were a couple of other ones as well. And yeah, to see the locker room stuff, to see like the steroid injection, I mean, that's not something we want to really publicize. But I mean, that's there, waiting for an autograph session with nobody showing up. That does happen in real life. So yeah, it's really true to life, especially to give you a nice look into the seedy world of independent professional wrestling. And I can vouch for the fact there's a lot of the things I can definitely say that I've seen firsthand numerous times. Brilliant movie.
So that wraps this up.
Next week, we thought we'd continue our Aronofsky train, so that's going to be next week. So after that, any parting words, AJ?
That's it.